sides for Carleton, it'll be Simon Montague. On the other side for UCF, it'll be Misha Freisdotter.
Well, Simon Montague might be the best overall player in terms of the fact that he does everything well. He's long and lanky. If he wants to throw it somewhere, it's going to get there. And he's also excellent in the air. He's one of the leaders of this Carleton team. He also gives them a little swagger in a Dylan Freechild fashion. Carleton, a very deep team, but Montague is the #1 guy to watch. He wears number 9. And for UCF, a 6'7" behemoth in Misha Freisdotter. He comes from a basketball background. He's traveled internationally to play hoops. Introduce him to Ultimate, and he's a force, both offensively and defensively. He's had a big weekend for Andrew Roca's Dogs of War, and they're counting on him to be huge in the semifinals.
The USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by the Discraft UltraStar 175 Sport Disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991.
It's actually really easy to get involved in Ultimate. We have leagues all over the United States in almost all of the big cities, in virtually every state. And if people just visit usaultimate.org, they'll be able to link through and find the local affiliates, or they can just call us and we'll get them set up.
And thousands have found their way to Madison, Wisconsin this weekend. It's our final semifinal matchup. Starting lineup for 7th-ranked Carleton College, a 3-time champ, James Adams, Simon Montague, John Reynolds, and Galen Ryan, their 4 cutters. Handling on the line, Justin Norden, Justin Lim, and Ben Caffrey.
One noteworthy senior absent, Nick Stewart, hurt his ankle in the win against Wilmington in the quarters. He's not expected to play. Carleton deep enough, it shouldn't be a factor, but something to keep an eye on.
The Dogs of War of Central Florida, number 6 seed, Andrew Roca, an alum of UCF, their head coach, Matt Kapp, Matt Carlson, Jeremy Langdon, and Mike Ogren, their 4 cutters. Their 3 handlers, Alex Bullock, Daniel Jacob, and John Bass.
Yeah, folks say that Mike Ogren's the heart and soul of the team, but it was Jeremy Langdon who may have had their biggest D of the tournament. They were pushed to the brink by Dartmouth Pain Train this morning. They won that game in part because of Langdon's huge defense down the stretch, and here they are, the last game of the day, battling for a spot in the finals.
Phil Bowen at the head coach for Carleton. Very excited for his program to be here in the semis, a perennial power out of the North Central region for Ultimate.
And both of these teams are coached by alums. Phil Bowen played for Cut, and so did Andrew Roca for UCF, a guy who is as intense as they come on the sidelines. He's a little cocky and confident, but in a good way.
And it brings a little bit of a different flair to the game as well, to have that excitement from the sideline from the head coach.
Absolutely. He's a guy who played the game very, very well during his time. Now one of the sideline commanders at the top of the sport.
Skies today here in Madison have turned from blue now to darker shades of gray. Our temperature just under 60. Wind has remained constant between 10 and 15 miles an hour all day. Fortunately, though, the rain has tapered away.
The field is wet, but it's not raining at the moment. It should be a fairly dry disc. The things you need to know about Ultimate: you play to 15, half times at 8, self-officiation, 10-second stall count counted by the players on the field. You'll pick up the rest as you watch. It's a great game.
And no clock. Opening pull coming from the Dogs of War. They let it fly to Cut.
One of the keys for UCF is to stop Carleton's pull play. Oftentimes they score early. Montague is wide open deep, and they couldn't get the throw to him, clogging some of the passing lanes. That's as open as Montague will probably be all game. They couldn't find him. Get him underneath.
Swinging it back and forth now between the brick mark and the end zone.
Carleton has really solid handlers. Justin Norden, number 3, he's a senior. Justin Lim, just a freshman, catching the disc ahead of the layout D attempt right there. This is Montague. Justin Lim's a guy, he comes into the program with potential, and as his freshman season, he locates that potential. Oftentimes it's not till your 2nd or 3rd year. A Seattle native, he's been fantastic.
Going deep, cut to the end zone, and a jump disc pulled down. What a grab by John Reynolds to get the scoring started.
Carleton has the propensity to be spectacular, but in reality, they're just really, really solid. Excellent handler cuts. They were patient, and then Montague sending it deep. A lot of traffic near the end zone, but Reynolds, one of the many deep threat targets on this cut roster.
And from all the teams that we've watched so far throughout this tournament, few teams have the sideline presence that Cut does, and that's a big part of the game for them.
It's absolutely huge. It energizes the 7 on the field. It keeps everybody fresh and fired up. And Carleton has such a great ultimate tradition that Phil Bowen is carrying forward in 2013. A number of Carleton alums here. Their women's team is already in the title game. They had a dominant first day at the tournament. The biggest game was against their biggest rival, and they upset the Wisconsin Hodags on their home turf. Really a game that wasn't all that close. Carleton pulling away down the stretch to win it 14-10. A tight game with Wilmington in the quarters. A costly win because Nick Stewart hurt his ankle and he's unlikely to play. Wilmington a feisty team, but Carleton was too much.
That's a difficult game against Wilmington. The Seamen are a very physical squad.
Yes, they are. And it's good for Carleton that that game was at 8:30 a.m. and this game is local time, 8 p.m.
That pull goes out of the back of the end zone, so a brick and a strong pull by Cut.
That's a heck of a pull.
Momentum here, not shifting one way or the other, but there is a certain sense of energy, more that has built up than any other game that has been played here today.
Well, Andrew Roca wants to embrace his team's athleticism, and already looking deep, instead taking the underneath.
There's a flick toward the end zone. Jump disc, we got another score. The Dogs of War strike quickly, finding the end zone, and they locate John Best.
They might have had the deep shot right off the pull, but they were patient and got a better look. This could be a game where both teams air it out. Nice hustle to try to overcome the gap in space, but a solid flick throw. Going up to the apex to get it. And we're tied, the Dogs of War and Cut. For Carleton, Phil Bowen's keys to the game. They don't want to get this UCF team into a matchup of 50-50 discs because they're a taller team with Freystadter and Mike Hickson. They want to move the disc quickly. He called it his stall 5 offense. They want to get the disc out of their hands before they get to stall 5, keep things moving, force this UCF team to chase them around the field. Because I think Phil Bowen believes, so does Andrew Roca, that at the height, UCF has the taller, more athletic, deep threats.
Now Cut trying to play out of its own end zone.
Hickson is chasing Montague. That's an excellent matchup. Montague probably a little bit quicker. Hickson has the size and the strength.
Man-to-man D for the Dogs of War.
Playing Montague straight up. He's such a good thrower. He can still throw upfield.
Montague goes flick and another flick deep. 50-50 disc and nobody gets it.
Solid throw from Justin Lim, but a good close from UCF. Kyle Reedy able to cut down the angle. Still a disc that probably should have been snared by John Reynolds, but now he's 1 for 2.
Back the other way, Dogs of War want to play deep. It's tipped out of bounds. Didn't look like that disc was going to come down within the field of play anyway.
Would have been really close. Montague got the D. Simon Montague might have the prototypical ultimate body. He's tall and lanky, and he can move in all directions. His arms are ridiculously long. I didn't get out the tape measure and measure his wingspan, but I'm sure it's gigantic. Maybe if he wins, we'll get him out with a tape measure tomorrow morning.
But you can see that too, just as he tries any time that he's got the disc to try and break the mark. It's never all that difficult for him.
No, he does what he wants to do with the disc. He's a really tough matchup. Teams have strategized defenses solely to prevent him from destroying you. And the way you do that is by basically yielding a gimme throw to try to get the disc out of his hands quickly. But despite his size, he has really good handler cuts and he's able to get open. Now he's cutting deep and Lim's looking for him.
Montague going end zone. It's up in the air and taken away by the Dogs of War.
That's Freystadter, the two stars that we highlighted off the top. Thank goodness we get a second look at this one.
You're coming to us? Okay. It's yellow's disc here. So, our ruling. So, no foul. It's your disc. You're going to tap it in. Yeah, he caught it first. Yeah. So, you were calling a strip effectively. Okay, so you make it live, and then everyone can move. Just get in, 20 seconds.
Getting to hear from our observers today, and that was a clean play there as Freystadter, with his big 6'7" frame, went right over the top.
Yeah, I was actually wrong. He's listed at 6'8". Used every inch there to leap over Montague, who's listed at 6'4". That was amazing closing speed, too, from Freystadter.
1-1 game early here between Carleton and Central Florida, with a trip to the championship game on the line.
Looks like a timeout might have been called.
And the Dogs of War take a timeout here. Offense stalled toward the far side of the field. 1-1 so far, good competition. A couple deep hucks have been the scoring differences.
Yeah, and you can see exactly why Phil Bowen doesn't want his Carleton team to get into a shooting match on the deep ball, because guys like Freystadter and Hickson, they may get beat once or twice, but over the course of the long game, they just have ridiculous size and ultimate skill, and they're a tough duo to go yard against.
You know as well as anybody, though, it's not just height that will get you to score in the end zone. What do you stand, 5'9", 5'10"? But if you've got leaping ability, you can still get up and grab the desk.
I could get up a little bit in my day, but not like Misha Freystadter, not at all.
Former basketball player who's taken his ability here to the sport of ultimate.
Yeah, the incredible thing, off the top as well, we talked about the difference between these two schools. Central Florida, gigantic, Carleton, tiny, and yet cut an ultimate powerhouse, in part because they have such a great pipeline. Phil Bowen actually writes letters, and the players actively recruit kids from the ultimate hotbed of Seattle to come to Northfield, Minnesota. I'm not sure how they sell them on it, because it's really cold there, but they get it done, and they're dominant every single year in, year out. This UCF team only has 2 guys who played ultimate in high school. They're all transplants from other sports, football and basketball and soccer.
Hammer throw, end zone, what a play! They find the score on a difficult throw, and Tommy Hankin, the freshman, puts UCF up by 1.
One of the things that Andrew Roca takes a tremendous amount of pride in is ensuring that every single player on his team can throw. Confident in the flick, confident in the backhand, and yes, the hammer too. The 6'8" Freystadter over the top for the score, going to Tommy Hankin. A 6'8" guy throwing a hammer. That's just great for the sport. That's great for the game.
And he was falling away as he let it go. It still had plenty of velocity on it to get it into the end zone.
Well, he faded away shooting the basketball. He can fade away throwing a hammer. Tommy Hankin, the solid reception.
So a fadeaway throw from a 6'8" handler, the Dirk Nowitzki of ultimate.
I call it the Kareem skyhook. But Dirk has his one-legged fadeaway is impossible to block too. But nobody scored more points in NBA history than the former Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
UCF 2 and Carleton 1. Cut with a very experienced team this year. They bring back 17 players from last year's squad. Wind still whipping around, and it brings the pull back toward the middle of the end zone. Cut quickly moves it out and breaks toward the middle of the field. Nice layout there to save the possession.
Oh, hand block. Freistadter said not today. Foot block, beg your pardon.
That's where the length comes in handy. Knocking away the flick with his shoe. They force Freistadter backhanded at D, knocks it out away.
Pass just a little too far ahead of its target. This is one of the captains, Julian Childs Walker, his younger sister, Lucia, one of the key players on the Carleton Syzygy women's team that's already earned its berth in the finals. Be a big day for the Childs Walker family tomorrow. Uh-oh.
That's back deep in a layout. Can't haul it in. UCF Dogs of War on the move. Chance to take a 2-goal lead.
Oh, they have a guy wide open in the back corner. They didn't see him. And they set up in a straight stack. Up line throw.
Give and go layout. And it's tipped away. Great play for it on both sides there.
Justin Lim so long as well. He has such amazing composure for a freshman. That's a good poach from Lim. From that angle, it looked like UCF may not have had as great of a play on the disc, but Lim was there to ensure. Good underneath cut.
Cut right to the middle.
He really sold it deep, came underneath. They get the dump, the swing, and the score.
John Reynolds, the sophomore, and cut back even with UCF at 2.
Textbook offense. Fake the deep shot, sell it, get the underneath cut. Quick flip back to a handler, cross the field. And it's really simple from there.
And really quick, precise movement here from cut down the field. They found who was open each and every time, and that leads to the score.
Yeah, one of the things about Carleton, there's no weak link in the offense. Everybody can shoot it deep. Everybody can cut underneath. Everybody's fast. Everybody's good. That's why you win championships.
And you know whose name we didn't call there on that possession was Simon Montague.
Yeah, he had the first throw to start that sequence, but you know, it's really satisfying if you're one of the primary handlers and you can just sit back, relax, and watch the other 6 guys go to work.
What was interesting there, though, was off the pole, nobody guarded Montague. They let him let it fly.
One of the funny things that both coaches said to me before the game, asked them what they thought of the first game, and they barely knew who won. They were both warming up with their teams. They had assistants and other folks that they trusted scouting, but neither Andrew Roca or Phil Bowen paid any attention to Oregon-Pittsburgh. Focused on other things for good reason. I feel bad for him, though. It was such a good game.
Big flick going for the score on the first play of the possession. UCF's got it going deep, and the Dogs of War score on the back of Mike Ogren.
Right off the pull, UCF gets a first throw, and then John Best lets it fly. About a 70-75 yard flick huck.
And Ogren leaves Paxton Harview in his dust.
That throw is a majestic sight. Gets air underneath it, but there's nothing floaty about it. Perfectly planted, and Mike Ogren celebrates for the first time. One of the veterans who has helped build up this Dogs of War team in a really tough Southeast region. You know, they realigned all the regions a few years ago. The Southeast used to be mixed in with the Atlantic coast, so teams like UNC in Wilmington, in Florida and Georgia and UCF, all the way up to UVA and Georgia Tech and Georgia, all bunched together. Now the Atlantic coast separate from the Southeast, but Florida and Georgia in Florida State Duff, all very strong programs, and UCF has become the regional powerhouse, really because of the recruiting of Andrew Roca and the way he's developed his players.
Hey, are we all set back here,
You
guys?
know, before last year, the previous 6 seasons, only 3 teams won a college national championship in the men's or the open level. Florida won twice, Wisconsin and Carleton each won twice. Carleton.
Adams lays out just too long, out of the reach of the sophomore who stands at 6'3".
Good bid. Pittsburgh got in on the mix last year. They'll have a chance to make it 2 in a row and continue trying to make that Mount Rushmore of men's ultimate. Just out of his reach.
And out of his shorts, too.
That happens.
At least the whole uniform matches. Sure, his mother would be happy that he matched. 3-2, UCF on top of Carleton, semifinal number 2. And the winner goes on to play Pittsburgh tomorrow for the Open Division Championship. We get to halftime when the first team reaches 8 here in this game.
Is there a call?
Are you making a call? Okay. That was called.
Yes, he did call the foul.
You're just here to be 0.
Contact in the crossfield disc, so Tommy Hankin will play it back in with the count at 0.
You need to start every stall count with the word stalling, okay? The next time I hear that not happen is a T. On any of your teammates, that's it. Hey, we're 0.
It is in the rule book. On the stall count, you need to say the word stalling and then 1. And technically, there needs to be 1 full second in between stalling and 1.
Dogs of War going deep. 6'8". That's an easy grab in the end zone for Freystadter.
This is why nobody really wanted to play UCF. They're really scary because of their size. And Carleton is finding that out. Cut got off to a good start, but Freystadter going deep. Look at the way he accelerates to the disc. Creating separation in the final moments of that run. And he's being chased by a guy who's pretty quick himself in James Adams. But the margin between the two widens as he gains traction to the disc.
How do you possibly try and match up with strides for somebody who is 6'8"?
Well, you got to try to force him underneath. You know, that's really what Carleton wants to try and do, because, you know, you can try to double team him on the deep shot and provide that help defense. But even still, a guy like Freystadter, with his reading ability and his field sense and instincts, he could go up against 2 guys and make the play. So the goal for Carleton needs to be force him underneath. And if Freystadter can't do it, Mike Hickson, who's 6'5", a similar behemoth in the end zone for the Dogs of War.
Carleton and UCF vying for a trip to the championship game, looking to take on and Sabanor of Pittsburgh with an upset win over #1 seed Oregon earlier today. And Carleton, a 3-time national champion, looking for their yet another title in Central Florida. First time making it this far at the national tournament.
Last year, UCF had a goal. It was to make quarterfinals at nationals. They did it. Before that, their goal was to make nationals. Eventually, they did it. And now their goal is to win a national championship. And after that, their goal will be to win multiple national championships. They're not satisfied. Staying hungry, staying humble, leading Carleton 4-2.
Last year was a big year for the Dogs of War in the finals of every tournament they played in. And making it to the Nationals for the first time, ended up tied for 5th after getting eliminated by Carleton. 4-2 lead for UCF, off with a pull.
And these two teams met in the quarterfinals last year. This year it's in the semis. Carleton taking down Wilmington this morning, and UCF a really tight game with Dartmouth Pain Train.
And a travel there called on John Reynolds.
One of the best performances from a team from that New England region in a while. You know, Harvard was really strong too. Lost in the pre-quarters to North Carolina, who fell to Pittsburgh in the quarters. What a layout, D.
UCF takes it back. Dogs of War on the move.
That's the kind of game-changing defense that UCF can deliver. Looks like they're using their second timeout of this half, trying to cement this D and go up by 3. You gotta love their body language right now. They're flying all over the field. They're playing with great energy, and it's manifesting itself on both the offensive and defensive sides of the disc.
UCF up by 2, so they used their second and final timeout here of the first half. Program came into existence back in the mid-'80s down in Orlando. This is a huge school. It's worth pointing out, a very successful regular season. And so it's so funny to see here, but in the world of Ultimate, not as much, because Carleton is a traditional powerhouse despite being a student body of just about 2,000.
Yeah, you know, Central Florida founded in the mid-'80s, but really not a national player until recently. You know, in the middle of the last decade, under Cameron Amy, who is a great player, they sort of gained some national recognition because of him. Then Bill Igar stepped in. He came to UCF, played, coached, helped to take them a couple steps further in their journey. Andrew Roca trying to complete that journey. And my, they look really good right now. It helps to have guys who are 6'8", 6'5", and just that willingness to give up the body for the team, as we saw in that last layout. One of the best layouts we've seen all day.
Bill Igar at the helm of teams in 2009 and 2010, which UCF will say were rebuilding years for the program. But they moved on and won their first tournament, Southerns, in 2010.
Not the intended target, but it worked out. A hand block, but maybe a foul.
Jeremy Langdon had the great grab there, a few yards shy of the goal line.
It stays with whoever caught it there, unless it was fixed. Okay, stays there. That was after. Stay. It's his disc. Right there. Okay, so it's coming in on 0.
UCF will keep it. Stall count 0.
Langdon was looking end zone and now dumps it back as the Dogs of War reset, looking to score, and they do. Frey Stoddard gets it in the side of the end zone, and it's 5-2 Dogs of War.
Carleton has not burned a timeout yet. They're a team full of veterans that should stay composed. But UCF is just playing superior ultimate right now. Frey Stoddard with the finish.
You just take the look on his face, and it seems like right now the Dogs of War are playing as the more confident team here in this semifinal.
Yeah, I mean, Carleton got off to a decent start, but they got a little Huck happy. And that's something that Phil Bowen said he wanted to avoid coming into this game. Work it underneath. We want quick throws. We want short throws. UCF on a big run. Carleton saving its 2 timeouts.
Carleton has used one here in this first half. UCF has used both, so only 1 timeout remains, and it belongs to Cut. After a 2-2 tie, it's now UCF in front 5-2. First team to 8 brings us to halftime here in Madison, Wisconsin. We have seen some really strong pulls to begin this contest. Cut out toward midfield. Huck looking deep. Justin Lim in and out of his hands. He didn't see that at first, but it had so much hang time that the freshman had a chance at it.
Ridiculous closing speed, too, from the freshman. People in the stands went from thinking he had no shot at this disc to him almost, look, he's not even in the screen until the last moment, getting horizontal but unable to snare it when he landed. Ooh, he probably feels like he should have had it.
He was cutting the opposite way, not even looking for the disc. Sideline Huck tipped away.
Not one of UCF's prettiest throws of the tournament right there.
So after a near score, Cut gets it back, down by 3. Reynolds forced home. Gets it away and finds Caffrey. They leave him open here. Now the mark comes. Near side swing right at midfield. Justin Norden. Oh, a missed opportunity there toward the end zone.
Well, he had him, but it was a good mark by Mike Hickson. Cut off the angle that he wanted.
Reynolds again, forced flick. That's turf, but a call. Contact there on the throw.
John Reynolds looks to be pleading his case.
Kyle Reedy had the mark.
Okay.
Uncontested? Uncontested?
Hey, we have 1 TMF on Carleton.
No contest, coming in at 0.
We need to start every count with stalling too, so.
Okay, good? All right, coming at 0.
Sounded like a TMF on Carleton.
Yeah, and the observers have been all over these two teams today to make sure they start their marks by saying the word stalling and then getting into their count.
For those of you who just joined us, TMF, team misconduct foul. I think a pick was called here. Team misconduct foul, you get 1, not a huge deal. You get 2, it's a second warning. Third time, there's a penalty, and every time after that. And we saw the TMF third and fourth occasion be major factors in pool play this weekend here at Madison. That was another TMF on Carleton.
Hey, offense called, it should be 0.
That's number 2, and emotions riding high here. Brawley Adams for UCF. Self-check back in for Cut. Simon Montague. Norden back to Montague behind the brick mark. They force him home. Freystadter on the mark against Montague. It's 6'8". That's tough to beat.
Montague is just running Freystadter ragged, looking for the hammer.
Wide open, and a hammer gets a score for Cut. They're back to within 2 on the goal from Will Harrell. How did he get so wide open?
Well, break side hammer. For the most part, when Montague wants to throw it somewhere, he'll find it. Cutting to the break side, his defender was thinking about the force side flick. A little half fake, beautiful throw to space. The only tough thing about that throw is that he has to get it over the outstretched arms of the 6'8" Misha Freistadter.
Let's go back and look at what Montague did during that possession. He knows he doesn't have a size advantage, so it seems like he ran his mark ragged.
Yeah, he did. He was running handler cuts up the field and back, forcing Freistadter to chase him, hoping to tire him out number one, and also freeing himself up to be the primary thrower. You know, Carleton does not want Montague to be the primary handler. They think he's too good of a downfield threat to solely handle. But in a game like this, when Freistadter is marking him at 6'8", and that nullifies a little bit of Montague's presence in the air, he's still a guy that is nearly unstoppable on the handler cuts, and he has all the throws. We just saw the hammer.
Harold scores for cut and also releases the pull.
First look at zone defense today for Carleton. Basic three-man cup, the short, deep, two wings, and Montague, the deep, the anchor.
The wind is fierce right now, blowing from the far side of the field toward the near side. We saw on the pull, Harold picked up some grass and let it fly to see exactly where it would go, and it was out of his hands in a flash. Justin Norton on the mark, a little bit of contact.
Yeah, it's either a foul or a travel.
Hey, let's stay set.
Okay.
Zero, but step right here.
All right, so uncontested. Coming in at 0, guys.
So a foul sends the stalling count back to 0.
See, does he trip over his knee? Well, they often say the discs don't lie. Didn't look like much, and here's a turnover.
Momentum potentially swinging back toward cut. They were down 5-2, and now a chance to narrow the gap to 1. Drop disc in the end zone, it's out of bounds.
Looking for Childs Walker. Wasn't a great angle to make that throw. He didn't get a ton of air under it. You have the full space to the back of the end zone there, and that was more of a front cone throw than a back cone throw. So far, 8 points in. Each team has been charged 1 team misconduct foul. They get 2 warnings, and then there's a penalty.
Zone defense here from cut.
Yeah, they're trying to force UCF to play the slow game.
And Daniel Jacob, who's got it here on the handling line, was urging his teammates to come back downfield and help them break that cup. Nobody going all too deep here for UCF.
And they're taking their time. There's a deep shot, beautiful throw, keeps it in bounds. UCF needs to capitalize here.
Little give and go action. Patience on the doorstep.
Carleton has gone fire, switching into man-to-man near the goal line. You'll often see that. UCF, their patience near the end zone has been really impressive, especially for a young team that likes to shoot it deep. They all have the throws, but Carleton's a good defensive team in the end zone, taking their time, making sure it's there. And it looked like a bumping foul called on David Long of Carleton.
Uncontested. Okay, coming in at 0, guys.
Daniel Jacob plays it in, marked by Long.
UCF is going to want to reset here. They have a fresh stall count, run one of their set end zone plays. Nothing was there, they go for the dump. Quick swing and they turn it over.
That would have been a big score. UCF would have doubled up Carleton. They're less than a yard away and they can't find a way to get it in.
That was the right decision, but the wrong execution. He didn't need to be that fine with that throw. He was wide open.
So cut again after a couple of turnovers. A chance to make it a one-score game. Looking end zone. And the easy grab, David Long from Julian Childs-Walker. Great connection there after a turnover, and Cut capitalizes.
In a football sense, this is a fumble on your 1-yard line going in for the touchdown, and the recovery 99 yards the other way. UCF had the huck, they beat the zone, they couldn't put it away, unable to punch it in, and then quick transition offense from Cut.
Two seniors hooking up there for the score. Cut on the hunt for their third national title in the last 5 years. You know they're not going to go quietly having made it this far.
Very experienced guys who have played this sport for a long time. Cut is an anagram, by the way,
You
as
see where it comes
the
from.
head coach's top suggests.
It's a little bit more simple than in Sabanur, the nickname for the Pittsburgh team, which comes from Marvel Comics.
It's a great name.
10 seconds, 10.
There are a lot of creative names in Ultimate.
Your favorite?
I was just thinking, I knew you were going to ask me. Let me come back to me later. Second half, come back to me, will you?
Dogs of War proving their mettle here. Working around the zone from Carleton. Hammer over the top, trying to break it, and they do across midfield. Mike Ogren directing the offense. Dumps it back. Second hammer of the possession. They stay alive. And the wind is fierce tonight here in Madison. The Dogs of War, they've got the score. John Best, the senior, cutting across the field. UCF scores at 6 points.
They force it up that far sideline. A couple of UCF players were wide open in the back corner of the end zone, screaming for some type of over-the-top hammer. But the more simple throw, slicing through the defense, Simon Montague trying to poach, but the throw came too quick.
And a couple of risky throws on that possession too for Central Florida to put two hammers out there, and one came on a real layout to keep the possession alive.
Yeah, I do think the wind is less of a factor now than it was earlier. You know, we're into the Madison night. The conditions have calmed a little bit.
And the rain has stopped too. The field really not quite as slick as it was during the previous men's semifinal.
And more importantly, the disc isn't as slick. Those flicks and the hammers, which use, for the most part, that same exact grip as the flick, can be a little dicey when the disc is wet, when your hand is wet. And one of the tricks of the trade on a wet day, as soon as a handler gets the disc off a turn, you wipe it off on your jersey to try to dry it off. If your jersey's already wet, you run out of options pretty quick.
Really at no point this weekend has the wind not moved, but yesterday you could see the flags really whipping in the breeze, and this is about as tame as it's been from this afternoon out to the evening. Sounded like a travel there, although there was contact, which forced the movement.
I heard travel call. I heard travel. Okay, okay.
Cut will tap it in.
Let's go, guys.
About 20 yards from the end zone.
Robert Olney looking end zone, a one-handed catch by Montague. Forced home. Breaks the mark with the flick. Tipped up in the air, who's got it? UCF.
It's a big backhand fake from Brawley Adams. The sidelines screamed up. He still had it. This one's up.
Going deep. Dogs of War get their 7th point. Huge grab as Michael Hickson goes up for it.
We've talked a lot about Freistatter, but Hickson just as dangerous. He timed the deep run perfectly. Had a few steps on his defender. Decent closing speed, but not enough to overcome the height and length of Hickson.
He's 6'5". Freistatter is 6'8", and when you put those two together to bookend a possession, you're in pretty good shape.
That is 13 feet 1 inch combined, right?
It's more math than I'm capable of doing. So 7-4 now. Next time UCF scores, if they do reach 8 first, will be at the half. And this is uncharted territory for Central Florida. Carleton very familiar with this area of the national tournament. But right now it's UCF, which has jumped out in front and stayed in front.
And continue to impress. They won the T-Town Throwdown 9 back in January. Not a lot of national competition there.
Second straight year they won that tournament.
A great first day at the Florida warm-up. Losses to Pittsburgh and Texas. Last couple days there. UCF went to the West Coast, becoming a national elite caliber program. Had some good wins, but also some tough losses.
And now we make it an injury timeout here. Brawley Adams went down, laying out for that crossfield throw.
Take a breath.
Looked like his left ankle. And he does twist it right there as he comes across the field.
Just gave out. Ouch.
Now this is one of 2 times during an ultimate game where you can make a substitution either after a score or on an injury timeout, but you never want to see a substitution happen that way.
Carleton will have the option to bring somebody in too. Andrew Roca checking in on him.
Good to see him though already up and standing on it. So the only 2 times when you can make a substitution plays into the strategy of the game with offensive lines and defensive lines and whether they get stuck out there or not.
Yeah, teams that have depth will often have a separate D-line and an O-line. When it comes to the nitty-gritty of a tournament, big points in the semis, a lot of guys will play both O and D.
Reedy lays it up. Feldman brings it in and a hammer to the far side. And the Dogs of War take us to halftime, 8-4 on a grab from Mike Ogren, the senior.
A microcosm of the first half. UCF, they're going big, and because of that, they're probably not going home before Monday. A long way to go. That was a dangerous crossfield hammer, hung up in the air, but UCF has dropped the hammer on Carleton in this first half of play, outscoring them 2-1 through the first half.
And how about this now? Semifinal game number 4. It's the first time we haven't seen it go 8-7 to the break.
Yeah, the 2 women's games both were 8-7 at the half. Pittsburgh, Oregon, 8-7 at the half. But the Dogs of War under Andrew Roca with an 8-4 lead at intermission here in Madison.
The Dogs are ready to eat, up by 4 at the break.
This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot.
We are incredibly excited about the growth of Ultimate. We are literally exploding all over the United States. SFIA, the industry group, just called us the fastest growing team sport in the United States. We're booming, and we're booming because we are now getting some great exposure, and the minute the kids start playing, they get totally hooked, totally addicted, and the parents love it because everything great about sport is fully baked into the sport of Ultimate.
USA Ultimate represents the national community. We try to bring local leagues together all around the country, kind of create a network across the whole nation. We run competition. It's kind of what we started off doing, running national tournaments, and all the qualifiers leading up to those. We create consistency across the country, rules of play, standards for events, and really kind of try to bring people together from all across the land to play this great sport.
The role of USA Ultimate for the sport of Ultimate is as the governing body. What that means is USA Ultimate does things from providing the guidelines and rules for competition, to running our championship events, to providing opportunities and programs for players of all levels, as well as coaches, family, fans, and friends of Ultimate players to get involved.
The Central Florida Dogs of War closing out the first half on a 7-2 run. Take us to the break 8-4 on top of Carleton College here in the second and final semifinal game in the Open Division to see who goes on to the final to take on El Salvador of Pittsburgh. Mike Cousins and former Wake Forest captain Evan Lepler, and boy, what a first half there. This is a Carleton cut team that is a team that's looking for its third championship in the last 5 years, but here in the first half, they looked very out of it.
You don't see Carleton look like that, and UCF has dictated the pace and the tempo. Carleton is a team that may have had its ups and downs during the regular season, but here at Nationals in Madison, they have been one of the smoothest teams here. They beat Wisconsin on their home turf. They took down a tough Wilmington team this morning. They've looked so crisp, and in this game, they have looked out of their element, and it's because of UCF's size and perhaps more importantly, their swagger.
They played as such a confident team here in the first half, but the size is big too. You have Misha Freistatter, who's at 6'8". He's big not only on offense, but as a marker too.
Well, one of their goals coming in was to use their athleticism, and they've done that. They've done a nice job of limiting Carleton off the pull. They had 1 or 2 quick points early, but Carleton led this game 2-1, and since then it's 7-2 Central Florida. And guess what? UCF gets the pull to start the second half, so that's another uphill battle for Carleton to try to overcome.
This is semifinal number 4 that we've seen today from the women's side and now here on the open side, and this is the biggest halftime gap that we've seen.
And here's the thing. Carleton came in as a 7 seed, UCF is the 6 seed, but I think most people looked at Carleton as the favorite in this game. The way they went through that B pool and beat the home team in Wisconsin. UCF, a little bit of an up-and-comer. UCF had trouble with Dartmouth this morning. It really looked for a while that Payne Tran would be here, but UCF made the plays late, coming from behind after Dartmouth took half. And here in this game, UCF still has 7 points to get, but it looks like we could have the Dogs of War and El Salvador tomorrow if UCF can keep it up.
So Carleton is the 3-time national champion, and Central Florida, this is uncharted territory for them, but right now it's the Dogs of War out in front 8-4 here at the half in Madison. So when we come back, we'll take a deeper look at this first half, but right now things are looking good for Central Florida here in Madison.
Mail time, everyone. Vero, Kip, P-Cap, Carl. Ooh, another one for Vero. Carl again, Sophia, Exton, Ningo, and one for accounting.
You're losing your touch, Ben.
On a chilly night in Madison, Wisconsin, Memorial Day Monday right around the corner, and a spot for the championship game on the line. Central Florida uses a 7-2 run to close out this first half on top of Carleton College. We'll jump into the highlights here from the first half, which started off in Carleton's favor, but not for long.
Yeah, Carleton got the first couple points they were looking for. Simon Montague with the deep shot. John Reynolds, the finish. Carleton again. Good movement of the disc. That's as easy a point as we saw in that first half. Montague dropped a hammer of his own, wide open in the end zone. Carleton found Will Harold for the finish. But Central Florida would pick it up. The Dogs of War in their first ever semifinal appearance, winning with defense and size. Misha Freistadter, he got the disc first. Montague called a foul. It was waved off. Freistadter can do it with the throws too. They hammer over the top for Mike Ogren. Carleton did not want to be lulled into the deep game, but UCF has done it both short and far, and they're halfway to the finals. A beautiful full field flick. And when Mike Hickson has a step or two, if the throw's on the money, it's money in the bank.
And then converting short distance too. The Dogs of War have not been afraid to throw the hammer today.
No, it goes with a swagger. You know, it's considered a fairly dangerous throw, but they've practiced it a lot. That's something that their head coach, Andrew Roca, takes a ton of pride in. Now, let's not underestimate Carleton. This is a championship caliber team, and they're capable of a championship caliber comeback. But this half is about Central Florida. Can they keep their foot on the gas pedal? If they can, they could win this going away. But if Carleton creeps within 2 or 1, I do like cut to overcome the deficit. Central Florida needs to extend the lead and not be satisfied with one half a play.
Well, UCF coming off of a close game against Dartmouth, the pain train earlier this morning. Carleton came in after a win over a physical UNC Wilmington team. You said it just as we got into halftime. A little bit of swagger for UCF, and their energy remains very high heading into the second half when they're set to receive.
Well, you don't want to be overconfident, but if you're warned about being overconfident, you probably have a pretty good reason to be confident, and UCF should be confident because they have the players, they have the system, they have the sidelines, and they have a team in Carleton playing without one of its better players in Stewart.
Bring the field, please. Bring the field, UCF.
Phil Bowen ready for his team to get back on offense.
10 seconds.
But first, they'll have to let it fly on the pole. So for Carleton in the first half, 10 turnovers, 2 Ds, 2 of 3 in the red zone, meaning from the brick mark to the goal line. And for UCF, they had some big hucks connecting on scores of 50 yards, 75 yards, a couple more 50 plus, and 3 for 7 when they were right there on the doorstep.
Now, UCF had a couple chances that they gave away, but up by 4, getting the disc to start the second half. Carleton has its best D line out there, and they're going to come out with a 3-man cup.
And already there on the first throw over the cup, UCF shows that it's not afraid to put the disc up in the air.
Really confident looking throw. A zone defense is more about waiting for the offense to make a mistake compared to a man-to-man, which you're trying to dictate space and create a turnover yourself. The zone defense suggests, in a way, that Carleton doesn't really think that it can cover UCF man-to-man right now. Sure, we'll see it again in the second half, trying to change it up. And they start in zone and now switch to man after the Dogs of War cross midfield. Disc will stay where it's at in the continuation, a pick call away from the play.
Jeremy Langdon with the disc and Julian Childs Walker on the mark. He's force flicked and breaks the mark back to midfield, getting it to Ogren. UCF right on the cusp of a score. Into the hands of Daniel Jacob. And a pick call.
Okay, we're all set. Good check.
Checked in. Jacob with the disc.
Textbook dump swing there to get it off the corner.
Travel call.
Travel call, but now UCF has it in the middle of the field. An opportunity to truly run their offense with plenty of space and plenty of options.
Ogren will play it in and a vert stack in the end zone for the Dogs of War. Garrett Pelton to the end zone, and Matt Carlson's there. The Dogs of War stretch the lead to 5.
Well, Carleton needed a break in the cut, unable to come up with it. The two-man from the front of the stack, just going break side. Nice pivot to the backhand. Carleton looking rather lifeless defensively right now. Seth Van Kahn broken badly right there.
Evan, you said as that possession started, cut came out in the cup defense, the zone defense. That's where you're waiting for the offense to make a mistake. At this point, down 5, Carleton really can't afford to wait anymore.
At the same time, they probably don't feel great about their matchups with the big guys, Hickson and Freystarter. Looks like Hickson's gonna pull. Freystarter still out there on this D point. Mike Ogren has been super solid. Brawley Adams, number 1. Tommy Hankin, number 44. You know, just as powerful as confidence, Mike, momentum. And UCF has all of it right now. Carrying it over from halftime. It's now an 8-2 run against Carleton. Looking deep for Montague against the size. Unable to come down with it.
2 defenders there. There is contact. And we'll see how this situation is resolved. UCF defenders Jeremy Langdon and Kyle Reedy.
I think it hit your hand.
I felt here and here
as I tried to catch it going
Okay, so it's a contested foul. Is anyone coming to me?
Do you want to send it back or? I'll send it
Okay.
back.
There's a foul on the throw anyway, but I just want you to resolve that first.
Okay. All right, so back to where you were on the throw.
Where you were on the throw, please. Where you were on the throw.
This is where it gets complicated. Multiple fouls on the play, and it's not like they're gonna offset. So you go with the most recent thing. They're gonna send it back to the thrower. Basically, that's a contested
Coming
foul.
up 0, guys.
Let's get set.
But the foul on the throw comes in on 0. So even if that was a turnover, with no contest on the foul on the mark, Carleton retains the disc.
So Cut wanted a huck, and right as they get it back, they turn it over. Dogs of War answer with a score.
Mike Hickson had the poach. He got in the lane. The thrower didn't even see him. Hickson the poach, the D, and UCF is rolling here in Madison.
Tommy Hankin was right there. Great D. Hankin just hangs in the end zone and waits to grab it. Right in front of Justin Lim.
Freystarter picked it up quickly. How about that? Montague sandwiched by Hickson, 6'5", Freystarter, 6'8". Transition offense off the giveaway. This is really stunning in a way. Just because Carleton looked so good on Friday and Saturday.
20.
UCF won its first game, then had its showdown with UNC Darkside. One of the sloppier games of the tournament. It did go down to the wire. UCF pulled it out. Both teams had chances. But after that game, neither of those teams looked all that daunting. With that said, you knew that UCF would pose matchup problems with whoever they played because of their size. And with that size, they've had the throws, they've had the aggressiveness, they've played really smart. And their confidence is at an all-time high right now.
Puck downfield, Cut looking to score, Galen Ryan. Maybe they get a little bit of it back as they pulled it within 10-5.
That snaps a 9-2 run. Carleton led 2-1 in the first half. And then 9 out of the next 11 points for the Dogs of War. A streak snapped right here by Carleton. A 9-2 run in Ultimate would be like a 35-6 run in basketball. You know, it's a substantial rally that you might see if you have a juggernaut playing against one of the nobodies in their conference. But in the semifinals of nationals, it's a different caliber of competition. And for a team like UCF to go on a run like that against Carleton under the lights with all the pressure and all the cameras on them, it says a lot about the coaching staff and the team unity that they brought with them to Wisconsin.
How many people do you think coming into this tournament or even into this game would have predicted UCF being up 10-5 on Cut?
Up 10-5, nobody would have predicted it. You know, Carleton came in as the favorite despite the fact that you see the seedings. UCF was seeded slightly ahead of Cut. The thing about Carleton's program, they work all season to get ready for nationals. You know, they forego success at earlier tournaments to give younger guys playing time, to tinker with their offense and defense with the #1 goal to be ready for nationals. And it showed the past couple days, but just unable to carry it into the semi.
Dogs of War looking to get it in again, and a one-handed grab. Got it for the score. Downfield, Jeremy Langdon, 11-5. Seemingly right now, there's nothing that Cut can do to slow down the UCF attack.
Another sick throw from Mike Ogren.
The footwork, too, phenomenal to keep them down in the back of the end zone.
Ogren using all the space he could. When he threw it, he knew where the back of the end zone was. He knew who was chasing the disc. And I'm sure he knew that the throw had a really good chance of finding its target when it left his hand. Another majestic flick huck.
The first to 15 is the winner. Right now, 11-5. The odds very much against Carleton, looking for their third title in the last 5 years. Meanwhile, for UCF, almost playing with house money. They've never made it this far, let alone the title game.
They're dreaming large, though, down in Tampa. The key for the second half for UCF was to keep the pedal to the metal. And so far, they've done just that. Up 8-4 at the break, a 3-1 start to the second half for Central Florida.
Dogs of War in man-to-man on this possession. And a good pull from Hickson, which sent Cut back into its own end zone.
I said down in Tampa. I should have said down in Orlando.
Well, either way, it's a lot warmer than the weather has been here in Madison today. Rain this afternoon. Temperature is still dipping below 60 here for these nightcaps.
Oh my.
That's just right in and out of the hands of John Reynolds.
Looking for the deep shot again. Freisteiner's got the size.
A lot of contact. Freisteiner can't get it. He was right there. Galen Ryan on the mark. And we got 3 players down in the end zone.
Well, there was a lot of contact here.
Right, no foul, right? Okay, so, are you okay? All right, are we good? Let's go, guys. 20 seconds, guys.
A lot of contact both ways. I'm really curious what the observer would have determined here. My guess is that it would have been nothing, but man, body just falling. Did look like Freisteiner sort of shedded Simon Montague and John Reynolds away with his right arm.
All right, does blue need one?
Phil, are you going to take one? They're taking an injury.
What? Okay.
Coach.
Freisteiner
right
taking an injury.
Are you going to take one? Okay, thank you.
He doesn't look too bad walking off under his own
are we
power.
ready? We good?
He did come down, though. It looked like where he wears that brace on his left knee may have been contorted just a bit.
It's good to be physical. He didn't need to be that physical. He could have just gone up over him.
And even as he goes out, it has been a balanced attack tonight for the University of Central Florida. Of their 11 points, 7 have been scored from different players.
Good balance. The depth on display.
And a pick.
Pick was called. Montague gets an extra step of space. Big backhand fake.
Back to Montague. They play him soft, forcing him away. He breaks the mark with a flick, getting it over to Galen Ryan. Montague again. Soft defense there.
Pick home, pick home.
So they'll restart after the pick.
Get set, get set.
UCF does a pretty
Defense
nice
set.
job of challenging the underneath throws.
All right.
And
is
they're
defense
afforded
ready?
that ability
Check
because
it
they
in.
have
Ground
such
up.
confidence in their height and athleticism
Come
to
on, number
recover
3, let's
going
go.
deep.
Tuck it in.
They're also playing with confidence and energy, which is exactly what you need, the defensive side of the disc.
Andrew, that's you.
Reynolds forced backhand and dumps it off behind the brick mark. Montague looking hammer. The late mark comes over. Cut gets it in for the score as Norden finds Reynolds.
And this is where the sidelines are important. Cut is a worn down team right now. The sideline trying to keep everybody up. Looks like Reynolds is exhausted. You know, most tournaments, Saturday and Sunday. The action here began at 8:30 Friday morning, and here we are, local time, 9:15 on Sunday night. Long days. Teams have played their better players for more points as the intensity is ratcheted up. And after Carleton took a 2-1 lead in this game, Central Florida closed half 7-2, and the Dogs of War 4 points away from their first trip to the finals at College Nationals.
3-2 is the advantage for Central Florida here in the second half. But for Cut, a 3-time national champion, that was their first time in the red zone this half.
I'm shaking my head here in the booth. It's hard to believe. But give UCF the credit for that. UCF has altered the way that Carleton usually plays. Stewart, a great deep threat, out with the ankle injury. The more important factor has been UCF's defense and style. There was contact, no contest.
Matt Camp with the disc right now for UCF. Players reset and Cap checks it back in. Again, inside that three-man cup. Down the sideline. Did that touch turf?
No, he got it.
Cut says otherwise.
We'll see. If it hits any blade of grass before he has possession of the disc, it's a turnover. I think that's a catch.
Looked like the four fingers were right under it.
That blade of grass rule, by the way, really hurts if you're playing on a field that hasn't been mowed for a while.
Dogs of War check it back in with a hammer. They have not hesitated to throw those today. Through the middle, looking end zone, and a nice tip, but it's right to UCF. John Best takes it down after Childs Walker knocked it deeper into the end zone.
What can you say? It's Central Florida's night. The age-old mantra, catch your D's. Childs Walker excited to get a finger on it, but macks it right into the hands of John Best. Not going to be the difference in the game, but just a deflating defensive play right there.
And you see the reaction from Childs Walker, hand on head, after knowing he had a chance to prevent a score.
That's like having your hand in the face of a three-point shooter. He's fading away, his eyes are closed, and he banks it in. The points still count, even though you feel like it shouldn't.
And he was wearing rollerblades, too. To say this 12-6 score is surprising would be an understatement right now. The Dogs of War pulling toward Carleton. We've not seen many bricks in this game, but Carleton will take it out to the brick mark.
UCF is going to enjoy watching the replay on WatchESPN.com. Carleton may skip it. Such a storied program with a great tradition. They're not out of it, but they would need one Herculean rally.
Childs Walker, a one-handed grab, keeps the possession alive. Now on the doorstep, Reynolds, who scored a few goals himself today.
Montague wide open with a ton of space. Almost took his eye off the disc there. And a pick was called.
Okay. Okay. It's coming in on 0, guys. It was in the air. Hang on. No, it was in the air. Coming in 0.
Stalling count resets to 0. Here on the possession for cut right in. Childs Walker's got it. You can read the lips there of Childs Walker. His team is down on the verge of not making the championship game. He says, let's have some fun.
And that's the attitude they need to take into these defensive points coming up. That's the reason everybody plays this game, because it's so much fun. Competing for a national championship makes it even better. But the deep seeds of love for the game of Ultimate come from the basic premise that, man, it is fun to chase a disc, to throw a disc, make leaping grabs, and make layout snags. It's a fun, fun game to play.
So we know on that Carleton sideline, Phil Bowen is trying to keep his team in this game down by 5. But if you're Andrew Roca, the head coach for UCF, you can't let your team's energy wane here despite needing just 3 more scores to end this game.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew Roca will allow his team's energy to fade. Dogs of War are deep. You know, if it is indeed a UCF-Pittsburgh matchup tomorrow, Pittsburgh really proud of the fact that their 12 through 17 are almost as good as their 1 through 12. They feel like they can have basically 2.5 full lines of guys who can be difference makers. Central Florida has its top kids. Another Blady flick over the zone. They have the wide open hammer if they want. Instead up the field, Montague gets the way out.
What a D from Montague. The energy doesn't wane here despite the 5-score deficit. Coming downfield out of nowhere, and the 6'4" senior makes the tip. Foul there on the sideline throw from Simon Johansson.
Zero.
No contest.
Hey, are we set? Wait, hold up. Make sure. Okay, we're good. Your check.
Wow.
That's a long throw to nowhere for cut.
5.
The great handler cuts and breaks to the dump and swings that we saw from Carleton all weekend long just haven't been crisp here in the semifinal.
Dangerous grab over the middle there by John Best, who scored 3 times and has dished out 3 assists. Best mark sidelined by Tyler Mahoney. Crossfield, what a grab. Jeremy Langdon keeps the possession alive for UCF. Dogs of War on the doorstep. They've got the score, and they're within 2. Matt Carlson, the grad student, gets the score. That's got to be a deflating turnover there for Cut. They're down at the opposite end of the field, and an errant throw gives it back to UCF, and they convert.
It gets to the point there's only so much you can do. You talk about making the easy throw. That is not the easy throw or the easy catch, but UCF has made the difficult plays. Langdon, the great layout to grab the hammer, and then just a calm finish for the score. 2 quick short throws. UCF 2 points away now.
In this half, the Dogs of War have been unstoppable in the red zone. 4 for 4. And they have outscored Carleton here in this half, 5-3.
And UCF has not had many unforced turnovers, not many at all.
And 1 team effort.
13-7 the lead right now, a timeout. UCF leading Carleton. And right now, let's go check out our Discraft Ultra Star play of the game.
Well, it's been this kind of day for Cut. Even when they make the play, it's UCF that comes out in front. Julian Childs-Walker, great hustle to get his hands on the disc, and disbelief in his face as it comes right to John Best for the score.
3 times he's been on the receiving end, 3 times the giving end. So Central Florida, its first time here in the semis, on the verge, 2 scores away from taking on defending champion and Sabanur from Pittsburgh tomorrow here in Madison. And with the momentum that UCF has right now, what a game that could be.
Yeah, it can and will be tremendous. UCF and Pittsburgh met twice at warm-up. Pittsburgh won both games, 13-11 and 13-7. That was back in February. Here we are, more than 3 months later, and UCF, a very different team than the one that lost twice to Pitt and twice to Tough of Texas at warm-up.
We watched UCF play this morning against Dartmouth. That was a close game, and this has been completely the opposite of that.
Dartmouth was frankly in control for most of that game. And it would have gone to Universe Point with a cap on if not for a Jeremy Langdon D right near the goal line. That just was one of the best Ds of the entire tournament.
Freistatter, Montague. Norden up to the end zone, and Ben McCaffrey for the score. Carleton will still continue to need to get stops.
Well, Carleton's had a tremendous tournament, and it's probably too soon to talk about it in the past tense. But they're running out of time. Simon Montague, certainly one of the elite players across the entire sport. Number 3, Justin Norden with the assists. He's another solid senior handler.
And Norden has dished out all of Cut's scores in this half.
All 4 of them. But right now, UCF has extended the lead since the break. 5-4. Dogs of War since halftime.
It was 8-4 at the break, which in our 4 semifinal games was the biggest deficit for any team, open or women's.
20.
Well, coming into the day,
10 seconds.
many people thought we'd have double Oregon-Carleton tomorrow. We might have one Oregon team and one Carleton team. It'll be Fugue and Syzygy on the women's side, Oregon-Carleton, but in the men's, Pittsburgh defeats Oregon, taking down the Callahan winner, Dylan Freechild.
And the number 1 seed.
Yeah, Aaron Hahn, Ryan Penner. Oregon, the favorite on the men's side, just like they were on the women's side. But Pittsburgh, the defending champ. The experience from a year ago certainly paying off in a big way.
Patient play right now for the Dogs of War. No pressure on them to score. And they get to 15. If they get there first, they are the victors. A lot of momentum carrying on that throw, brought in by Daniel Jacob.
And a smart timeout call. No need to rush it. UCF has been flawless in the end zone since halftime. Get a breather, and they will devise a plan to get this into the end zone. If they do, they'll be just one away.
Central Florida, a perfect 4 for 4 when they've been inside the brick mark, the red zone, here in this half.
Their only loss in the pool play was against an Ohio team in their final game. UCF did not need a win in that game to earn a first-round bye straight into the quarterfinals. So they rested some of their regulars against Ohio. But in pool play, their biggest win was against North Carolina. They also beat UC Davis, a team that gave the Oregon men a pretty tough quarterfinal earlier today. UC Davis took out the home team, Wisconsin, in a pre-quarter. That was one of the more shocking results of the entire tournament. UCF also beat a scrappy Luther team that took North Carolina dark side of the brink in one of the better games of pool play, 16-15. North Carolina had a slow start to the tournament, looked real good in its pre-quarter game against Harvard, but fell ultimately to Pittsburgh in the quarters. Central Florida, close to the finals.
And Jacob gets it in. A diagonal stack here in the end zone. That hangs up high. Contact on the catch from Bullock. Collision with Lewis Cohen. But he hangs on and they play on.
Hey, let's all be set before we check it in.
Clearly a foul, not intentional, not against the spirit of the game. A good hard play, and UCF will check it in. Thankfully, no one got hurt. This was a pretty solid collision here on a disc that floated a little too much.
And first, Will Harold wanted it for cut, couldn't get it.
Falling down like bowling pins out there.
Still a little slick on the grass. Bullock takes a tumble.
All right, gentlemen.
He's in a little bit of pain, but he's not going to call for an injury timeout.
From the other angle, solid impact.
And now they're stalling count at 0. UCF with a score here would be within 1 goal of taking out Carleton.
Hey, it's a foul. It's 0.
You can hear the observer confirming that it was a foul, so the stall's coming in on 0. Oh my.
John Best, a little bit of miscommunication there. Freistadter couldn't believe it.
Montague picks up the disc.
Some life for Carleton. Deep puck looking for Childs Walker. It hangs high. And a good D from UCF.
Jeremy Langdon again. Such a force on Dogs of War D-line all throughout the tournament. He stole the good position.
And he's certainly got the height advantage over the 5'10" Childs Walker. So as that one hangs up there, Langdon has all the opportunity at 6'2" to get to it first. Are you surprised at all that Cut has not come out of that cup despite the deficit? Going deep. It hangs high. Tipped away at the last second as Mike Ogren tried to grab it out of the air.
They're going to go to the observer. No foul, said the observer. Am I surprised that they haven't gotten out of the zone? Not particularly, because clearly in the first half they tried to go man-to-man and got burned. So they're trying to force UCF to be a more handler-oriented team. With that said, without the wind, with UCF's ability to keep hitting these hammers, you figure sooner or later, what a great backhand fake by Montague. That's up. He got it.
Freeze, guys, freeze. Freeze, down call.
Oh, my.
Childs Walker laid out for it. This would be big if Cut gives it up.
Yeah, I
And
stand
that's down.
corrected.
That was more than one blade of grass.
Yes, it was.
Now, 10 seconds.
10 to play the disc here for the Dogs of War. Bullock to get it in.
Got a lot of space, runs it down.
Langdon on the far side. Flick to the end zone. And a score. Daniel Jacob. And now UCF 1 away.
And not the easiest point of the game for the Dogs of War, but eventually they get it done. A nice flick to space. Langdon runs it down. His defense has been his calling card, but he can flick it up the field to the end zone too. Daniel Jacob, the 6'4" graduate student. Now UCF with Hickson and Freistadter 6'5", 6'8", but Jacob 6'4", a true freshman named Stuart Little, and yes, that actually is his real name. He's a talented player, just 19 years old. He's 6'4", belying his surname Little. They're deep.
Hey, cut. Cap is on. Point cap at 16.
They declare the cap on. The point cap is 16, so if Carleton scores the next 8 straight, they would win.
But Carleton, since the half, has only scored 4 to 6 for UCF. There was an 8-4 advantage as Central Florida took the half. Every possession now for Cut is its most important of the season.
And in baseball parlance, the 6-goal deficit here is much greater than, say, a 6-run deficit going to the bottom of the 9th. In baseball, you can hit a 2-run homer or a grand slam. You got to grind it out one at a time on the ultimate field. If this is a turnover, UCF is in great position to win it.
Who called what? What did you call?
I called foul because I was running to the disc.
Okay.
And I hit him. And then
Okay.
I'm calling pitch because
Mitch, we're set back here, right?
Okay. All right. Is anyone coming to me, or is it a contested foul?
I'm saving my pitch.
I know. Okay. So contested foul, or is someone coming to me?
They're cleaning the foul for it. I'm going to those areas.
You're coming to me? Okay. It's gonna be my ruling. There's no foul. Comes in with a check. Comes in with a check. So, okay, just make it live.
USA Ultimate Organization has done a really fine job of creating a protocol with the observers, and it's very clearly delineated. You're coming to me, I'm making the call, let's move on. And something the players respect. This could be it.
Dogs of War. For the first time in program history, Central Florida is headed to the finals. A turnover for Cut, deep in its own zone. And this was a dominant game for Central Florida start to finish.
15-8. A blowout in ultimate terms, particularly for a semifinal game. Good sportsmanship from Cut. In a way, it's easier to lose 15-8 than it is to lose 15-14. But Central Florida finishes it off. Hickson to the end zone. The winning score for John Collingwood, a graduate student at one of the biggest universities in America. They take down one of the great small colleges in this sport. And Carleton, emotional after coming so far and peaking on Friday and Saturday, defeating Wilmington this morning, but unable to bookend the day with victories to advance to the championship game on Monday.
Certainly a proud moment for head coach Andrew Roca, a 2010 graduate of UCF, now at his alma mater to coach this program and bring them to their first ever finals.
There are a lot of proud UCF alumni out there. The folks who lost the games at regionals, who made this program better, elevating it to the national stage, step by step, brick by brick. UCF has built one of the best programs in the country. Last year, their first trip to nationals, making it to quarters, that's an achievement. But getting to semis and then advancing to finals, another large step forward for the Dogs of War, and it'll be Pitt and UCF on Monday.
So a returning champion. Pittsburgh won it all last year, and Central Florida has never been. And a 2010 graduate of UCF, Andrew Roca, their head coach, joins us now. Coach, what a win for you, dominating from start to finish. How did it feel going into the half, up big, and to finish with such a big deficit for Carleton and you taking this one?
I'm speechless for their first time. Probably my wife, I'm speechless. Really excited, and I can't imagine a better way to end it.
Was that the best game you played all year?
By far the best game you ever played.
Why?
From start to finish, my freshmen and my second tier guys just really stepped up this game. Brawley Adams, Tommy, Hankin, just amazing. I can't say enough about them. That's really the reason. It's not my top level talent that did it. It was my mids. That's exactly what it was.
After such a close game this morning against Dartmouth, what was your feeling coming into this game?
You know, we take every game to heart. We really do. That's how we get better. But at the same time, though, we understood the consequences of that game. You know, losing a lot of our energy. But at the same time, though, the rest between games really did help us out, and they took it seriously. These guys know how to prepare, and I think that's what this game was, great preparation.
Misha Freistadter did leave with an injury. Didn't look too bad, but is he all right?
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Tomorrow, I'm expecting a lot of big things out of him. We'll check it out tonight, but I think he'll be fine.
I know you didn't watch the Pittsburgh game, but your thoughts on facing Pittsburgh? You lost to them earlier this year. That was about 3 months ago, so obviously a very different circumstance heading into tomorrow.
Yes. We know Pitt very well. We have I think an 0-5 or 0-6 record against them, but it doesn't mean anything when it's in the national championship. Anything can happen, and I think, you know, early in the year it was said best to expect the unexpected. I don't think anybody expected us to get to the finals.
Andrew Roca, head coach of UCF, on to the finals for the first time. Thanks for the time and congratulations.
Thank you.
So it's Pittsburgh. They will defend their crown, winning last year in Boulder against the Hodags of Wisconsin. Carleton, the perennial power, done, and it's Central Florida on to the finals. What a matchup we'll have tomorrow.
An emotional defeat for Cut. Both Carleton and Oregon devastated. It very easily could have been Ego and Cut, but instead Pittsburgh and UCF, two East Coast schools competing here in Madison for the championship game on Monday.
So a fantastic weekend of Ultimate here in Madison, Wisconsin will conclude tomorrow as the Open Division and the Women's Division have their finals. UCF wins over Carleton by a score of 15-8. To watch this entire game on replay, as well as other games on our family of ESPN networks, log on to Watch ESPN or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.